I'm Algenon Cash, and you're locked in. Welcome back, as normal. I'm always proud to bring you all someone high up in our community that's doing really great things, and today is certainly no exception. I've got my good friend. I almost don't know how to introduce her. It's Representative Dr. Amber Baker. I don't know which one you actually start off with, but I'm gonna go that way with it. Um, but Representative Baker was actually elected to the North Carolina General Assembly just a couple of years ago, and just wrapped up her first legislative session. So we're going to get some insight from her on that, as well as even though she might be new to politics, she is certainly not new to our community. And we'll get some insight from her on just what she's seeing around town. Dr. Baker, how are you today? Thank you for locking in.
Hey, thank you for having me. As always, I am always glad to be a part of what you're doing and to have the opportunity to talk to the people that I represent, and honored to be here.
And I'm ashamed, but I always get a little confused. So you're in House District 74.
72.
72. Okay, I purposely didn't say it in the intro because I just had a feeling I was going to get it wrong. But so it's House District 72.
Yeah.
And you're new. You're a newly elected state representative. I guess you fell and you hit your head pretty hard and decided to jump in. I tell people get into politics for either one of two reasons. Either they're crazy or they're mad. Dr. Baker, we want to hear it. Which one were you? What motivated you to want to be the representative in District 72?
Well, definitely not crazy, but extremely mad and frustrated around just what I was seeing in Raleigh as an educator. To not have raises for a number of years and to continue to see policies that were hindering what we do as educators, and then just the failure of those that are in charge to just be in touch with what everybody is facing day to day. And so most certainly was not planning on running before retirement because for the record, we get paid less than $14,000 a year. But sometimes you get pushed into your purpose. And that's exactly what happened. I kind of got pushed.
Well, we've had several of your colleagues from the General Assembly on the show, which I'm so thankful for. And that is something we talk a lot about. I think people mistakenly think these state representatives are paid like the folks are in DC and Congress, but you don't make you only make a fraction of what you make serving in Congress, and you don't even have the staff support that they do in Congress. So, for a new legislator, it's one of those things. I mean, you can try to prepare for this job, but inevitably there's going to be some things that you miss. For a new legislator, what was that first session like? I mean, you dealt with COVID. The session, you're technically still in session right now, so the session is still drawing it on. Yeah. What's this experience been like for someone new in Raleigh?
Well, I think just trying to navigate the process. For those that kind of follow me on the campaign trail, I made no promises in terms of what I expected to be able to get done in this first year, other than to just try to figure out where the bathrooms are. And I still get lost in that building. But I think initially it was extremely overwhelming, right? And humbling to know that you were now a part of 120 legislators that were responsible for passing legislation to affect everyone in North Carolina. So it was both humbling and overwhelming. And then I think for me, the just learning how to navigate all of that and ensuring that being responsible to the needs of people, responsive to the needs of the people as they were calling and requesting, and making sure that I was well read. It's helpful if you're a reader. It's important for you to know what you're voting on and don't be afraid to ask questions. And I ask a lot of questions when I don't understand areas that are not in my area of expertise. And I reach out to people such as yourself when I have questions about certain things in bills to make sure that I'm making the most informed decision.
And I can attest that is one thing Dr. Baker will do. She will ask questions. She may not always like the answer. She may not always go with your idea or your opinion, but she is going to ask questions, and she's going to try to make sure she understands all sides of an issue before she draws a conclusion. Not only were you new in Raleigh during this most recent session that is coming to a close slowly but surely, but you're also in the minority.
Yeah.
So talk about what it's like to be down there and working with some of our conservative friends. How was it working with the other side of the aisle?
Well, being new, I have absolutely no power or influence. And so just kind of trying to make your presence known in a sense that I like to inform everyone that we all have one vote, just one vote, and all of our votes count the same. And so I try to reach across when I can. Oftentimes it's not well received. And I don't think that has anything to do with party disagreement. I just think that it's very misogynistic down there, and being a female, you kind of struggle to find your way. And so I think that has compounded the issue of being in the minority party, along with being a female, along with being a female of color.
What would you say is one of your highlights for this past session? What was something that you felt like maybe you got done, or maybe what was something that was just completely unexpected for you?
Well, to be able to file your first series of bills was exciting for me. And we were able to get some legislation passed that helped people in the beauty industry. Believe it or not, my sister was a cosmetologist and owned her own business for a number of years. And so we were able to pass some legislation that made it easier for people who wanted to become instructors and people who wanted to enter in to get licensed. And I know that that's not provocative, but for our business owners who are looking pathways forwards, I was really excited about that. The co-sponsor of the Crown Act. For those of you who know me, know that I wear my hair natural, and that we were hopeful that it would have made it to the floor to get a vote, but we couldn't get it out of committee. But we're going to keep pushing that forward. To also be one of the primary sponsors on just the increase of minimum wage and access to healthcare. The mommy bus bill, I was excited about that. And was a primary sponsor on a bill that I was hopeful would have shown up in the budget, and it didn't, was to get $250,000 brought to the city to help with a summer learning loss. And it would have focused on working with community partners that would not have gotten funded through the school system. And so Donnie Lambeth was my co-sponsor on that bill. And I felt like since he co-sponsored it, that it would have made it to the budget. And when it didn't make it to the budget, I was quite disappointed. Quite disappointed that we didn't get the amount of money that we were trying to get for the Black Theater Festival, which drives millions and millions of dollars into the city. And then just am okay with not voting for the initial budget, even though it could have potentially impacted what came to the city. But ultimately, we were able to make a bad bill better. And so for that, I'm extremely proud of that. Not being fearful of speaking up on the floor, and the debates get rather heated. But I oftentimes am very comfortable with speaking because I go in prepared. I'm not moved by emotion. I try to be moved by fact or the absence of facts.
Well, it sounds like you're quite busy down there as a
Mhm.
junior legislator, a freshman, first year or first session in. You
Yeah.
guys did get a $25.9 billion budget pass. First time we've had a budget pass in North Carolina in about 4 or 5 years. So that's certainly something to be proud of in terms of being part of the group that was able to negotiate that and get it across the finish line. I also was a bit disappointed. You told me about the money that would not be coming for the National Black Theater Festival, and that was a big disappointment because that's a huge impact right here in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County, right along with River Run and so many other arts and cultural events that we have right here in the city. So maybe that's something that we can continue to work towards. I hear you mentioning some things you were not able to get done. So I guess, can we break the news here on the show? Does that mean Dr. Baker wants to head back to Raleigh? Are you seeking re-election or?
Yeah. So I am seeking reelection. As many of you who may be following knows that we have filed a second appeal on the maps, but as part of that appeal process, the judges were asked to release a date, and so we will be able to file starting February 24th. I had the misfortune of not getting the memo about filing the first time, so I showed up with my orange T-shirt on, ready to file, only to be turned away. So I will be at the door at 8 o'clock on the 24th to file for re-election, and hopefully will earn the right to go back for another term. I, as long as I run, I will always work to earn the right to return. I will never take it for granted. And so people have asked me, am I going to be primaried? At this point, I don't know. But it is within the right of anyone who feels like they want to run. That's the right. But I'm going to earn the right every time to go back.
Well, for my audience, that maybe this is the first time you're hearing from Dr. Baker, I strongly encourage you to go learn more about her. She's got a website out there. She's on social media. She also produces a real timely newsletter that goes out to her constituents. I'm on that list, and she updates a lot of her followers on what's happening in Raleigh. And then if you already know Dr. Baker, then you're probably already a big supporter just like me. And so I encourage people to continue learning more about her. Dr. Baker, I'm going to run out of time soon, but you alluded to this a moment ago, and I've shared with my audience before. You're new to politics, not new to community leadership. You were a school administrator. You've been involved in a number of initiatives around town. One thing that we talk a lot about, and especially in the last several years, is really what I like to say, the rise of the Black woman. Black women are just getting a lot more attention. There's a lot more conversation about the need for diversity, equity, inclusion. I mean, those are all hot button conversations, no matter where you are these days. Talk a little bit about what it's like to be a Black woman and be in the positions of leadership you've been in, whether it's the work you did in the school system, all the way up to the work you're now doing in Raleigh.
So yeah, I recently was a contributor on a book that just recently was published, and it talked about it's the book is called The Good Fight, and it's talking about African American principals and administrators and kind of the struggle. And I talked about the what, and the why. What makes you who you are, and why do you do what you do. And I think it's important for you to be rooted in grounded in the what and the why, because when you come up against adversities, it is so easy to concede to power because it's just easier. Oftentimes you stand alone, but when you stand for right, you have to be willing to stand for right, because it's at the core of what you believe. And so often being passed over for promotions, oftentimes your voice being minimized. I was on a call this week, and I had to just call it out, because the person, whether they were intentional about being disrespectful about what I said, it was disrespectful. So I think it's important that you know your power, know your voice, be willing to stand in your truth, and realize that you may not be popular and you may not be well liked. But in the end, I would say that people who know me know that they can respect what I say. My yeses mean yes, and my no means no. And that they pretty much know where I stand on issues, and that's how I approach my leadership.
Well, Dr. Baker, I always enjoy talking to you. You and I can do this for like literally hours. There's so many things we could talk about.
Yes.
But of course, they limit us on time here. But I just want to say, thank you, not only for what you do for our community at large and the work you're doing in Raleigh. I know that is a very big sacrifice to spend as much time as you do down in Raleigh. And so we thank you for doing that. And we thank you for being a trailblazer in terms of what you're doing to represent Black women, not only here in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County, but across North Carolina and really across the country as well. And we just encourage you to keep up the good fight, stay locked in, Keep doing exactly what you're doing. And certainly anytime that you want to come on and share anything with my audience, you have a standing invitation. And to my audience, I always appreciate you locking in with me. Make sure you stay tuned to WTOB every single week. That's where the Locked In Show broadcast on Sunday morning. But of course, if you miss it there, you can go check out the Locked In podcast. That's on Apple, Pandora, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever your favorite podcasts are. You can find the Locked In Show. Make sure you also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Instagram, and Facebook. And as always, until next time, y'all stay locked in.
Thank you.